Welcome back to Pause to Unedit Yourself, where reflection meets transformation, a podcast that gives you permission to press pause and offers a reflective space for self inquiry. I'm your host, Anushka, and each episode I will be sharing bite sized insights, a collection of thoughts and reflections on topics that I have pondered on through my journey of introspection, soulful insights that have helped me in the hope it will help you too on your path of personal evolution. Whether you're feeling stuck, searching for clarity, or simply wanting to expand, my hope is that this podcast becomes a space of inspiration and deep remembering for you to evolve from within and uncover the infinite potential that exists inside each and every one of you. Last episode, we dove deep into uh, a very deep topic, which is the ego. And thank you, everybody who has messaged me and has given me feedback on it and told me how much it helped them and it was insightful. It was really an episode to really step back. And it's something to revisit time and time again as you go on this journey of self-inquiry. So in today's episode, which is part 2 of dissecting understanding the ego, we're going to dive into how to integrate the ego with our true self. So, if you're new to the podcast, if you're just exploring, I would suggest having a listen to last week's episode, which was part 1, which will kind of give you that foundation to this week's episode. So, let's start with a short recap of what we discussed last week. And so, we explored what is ego and kind of looked at that ego is the layers of identity and programs that has shaped who you are and how it kind of clouds your true authentic nature. And if we think about it, we are complex beings. We are the sum of all of our experiences, of our emotions and our beliefs. And all of this is sort of like tied together over the course of our lives. At the heart of this complexity lies the ego. And it's really, it's deeply rooted aspect of our identity that shapes our view of the world, how we see it. And it often hides and it veils our true selves. And so ultimately, ego is that lack of awareness. It lives in fear. And we all wear many masks to fit in. And what I've come to realize is that we only reveal certain aspects of ourselves to certain people where we feel comfortable, where we feel safe to do so. And we do this because we have been programmed by society to live in fear of being seen for who we truly are. So, in that sense, our ego is the source of our greatest suffering because, as I mentioned, it is a sum of all your experiences, your beliefs, your desires, the ideas and fears. But it's a source of our great suffering because the ego's purpose is to find security. And so, what it does, it clings to an identity that has been created for itself in order for it to feel safe. It is a master of manipulation, you see. Where on the other hand, your authentic self is love and it is abundant in nature. It is free. And we explored how you can recognize the ego. And I really like this quote by Rumi, where he says, quote, "Somewhere beyond right and wrong, there is a garden. I will meet you there." Unquote. You see, the ego shows up as this forceful desire to be right. I know we've all been there. Think of all the arguments or places or times that you've really kind of justified yourself. You justified your existence. You were trying to justifying your point. And that's how it kind of shows up is in this desire that I need to be right. Your opinion doesn't matter. I have to be right. What I say is right is might. But we forget that everyone's perspective on situations is based on their own experiences. And so it's really important to have that awareness. And the ego, it shows up as that fear of unknown. And I've been there. I think we've all been there where it's that aspect of not knowing. And so we fear it. We fear the unknown. We fear the void. We fear the uncertainty. And that fear is rooted in our ego and in attachment to the identity that we have created for ourselves since the time that we're born. The first piece is our birth certificate, if you really think about it, when we are given our name and our surname, which is sort of like classified to our heritage and our ancestors, where we've come from, and that's our identity. Think about the attachment to objects, how we cling to certain objects and that material possessions, and also to people. Think about the relationships that we have, friendships, our relationships with our family, with our parents, with our siblings, and ultimately with our romantic partners, and how we cling to that attachment. And reality, where is that attachment coming from? Is that place coming from a place of fear of losing them, or is it coming from a place of unconditional love? Ego, it also shows up as insecurity and ultimately being unable to let go, to surrender. And what it does is it creates this doubt when it feels that you want to move away from that comfort and security. You'll get that niggling feeling, and that doubt creeps about. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you really sure? Do you think it's really worth it? It's that niggling doubts. We'll start putting that in here when you know for certain intuitively deep down that this is it, and then it'll sort of like creep up on you, and that's your ego there, because it fears, the only constant, which is change, and that's what ego is. And it, as I mentioned, it also shows up as judgment, and people are so quick to judge and to criticize. I've recently just noticed this just on social media. It's the first place I kind of just go to is look at the comments, even when somebody is celebrating their life. You will see a barrage of influx of people just hating. And I find that really fascinating. People always trying to find something wrong with other people rather than to celebrate. And that's your ego. It jumps on that bandwagon to judge and to criticize. And so one thing is that I've realized is that no matter what you say to somebody, or whatever evidence you present to them, remember that the ego is a sum of all of their experiences and all of their beliefs. And so if it goes against their beliefs, then you will always be 100% wrong all of the time. And so how others see us is often a projection of their own mindset and their experiences, and they will see what they want to see. And you cannot control how someone else perceives you. And then that's a part of your ego that you just have to let go and surrender, because that will be their experience of you. So we kind of also explored how you can dissolve the ego. And this is ultimately through awareness. The more that you observe, the more that you learn. One of the things is it's not so much as getting rid of the ego, it is integrating it. And what happens is that the awareness, sort of being in that observation state, it processes, it watches how the ego operates as that observer. And the objective and the goal of awareness is only desire is to observe, is to be a witness. And so by identifying all of your unconscious beliefs, which has been a part of your entire existence, just Just take that in. That is everything. It's how it's shaped you and your reality. You start to really reveal how the ego works and to make it conscious. And that's the magic. That's what the magic is. And it's through this process of awareness, as it starts taking that lead, you start to learn how to tame the ego, to observe it. And with time, that ego, it becomes integrated. And it's a journey. Remember one thing, we are all works in progress. There's no rush, there's no destination. It's just a journey. And it's your journey ultimately. What are we all seeking? Is to be liberated from these masks that we have and to live as who we were born to be, which is our highest expression of ourselves, our true authentic selves, our true authentic nature of ourselves. So today I want to explore how to integrate the ego. And I want to start with this quote by Muji Baba who says, quote, "It takes a lot of energy to be the ego. Again, it takes a lot of energy to keep. It takes no energy to be yourself. Consciousness." Unquote. What a beautiful way to look at ego and to realize how much, if you think about all of your different times in your life, how much energy has drained you because you were fighting your true self, and your ego's desires to be right. Think about that. So, what is that integration process? Well, the integration is the process of accepting. Everything comes down to accepting the ego's presence and actually inviting it to work with us rather than against us. By shifting our awareness to our higher self, and that's the part of us that feels abundant, peaceful, and connected, we allow our true self to lead, using the ego as an instrument rather than a limitation. So ask yourself, what am I doing or thinking that doesn't align with my true self? Am I reacting from ego or responding from soul? Each time you shift from reaction to response, what happens is that you create this beautiful space for your true self to shine through. That ego is impatient. It's always chasing a goal. So if you're in a hurry all the time, it's your ego. Whereas your soul, it knows it's eternal and it stays in the present and enjoys the journey. And this is something that I've really learned over the last couple of years, is to really how to slow down. My life was in a very, very fast pace. And, it's something that I've learned and I'm learning, to be honest. And there is beauty in that. The ego, it really focuses on lack and flaws. It's constantly judging itself and comparing to others. But on the other hand, the soul, it knows it's abundant. So doesn't look to others to complete it because it knows it's whole already and it's perfect already. The ego's operating system is fear and it's lack, whereas the soul is pure unconditional love. The ego, it wants to serve itself, but the soul, it wants to be of service to others. And that is beautiful. That is one soulful recognition to really ask yourself, am I doing this for myself or to be of service to others? And your true self, your soul, feels like trust, not confusion. It feels expansive, not contractive. It's creative, it's calm, and it feels like wisdom and compassion. So, I wanted to share a few steps with you that have helped me on my journey to identify and start integrating the ego as something actionable. As I mentioned that, identify and understand the ego, it is this empowering step in the journey towards self-awareness. Integrating the ego, it doesn't mean silencing it. It's learning to observe it and harmonize with it, with our true self. And so here I want to share some of these questions and practices to guide you on this journey that have helped me and I hope will help you too. So the first one is to begin with self inquiry. And this was very new to me. Understanding the practice of self inquiry is fundamentally asking yourself questions that bring you closer to the essence of who you are. And these questions really invite you to look beyond the surface and explore deeper aspects of your identity. So, some of these questions would look like: who am I? We've asked that. So reflect on who you are beyond the titles, roles, or past experiences. When you ask somebody, who am I? And you said, oh, I am so and so. I have this job. This is my job title. I'm married. I have kids. I have this. This is all an identity. So look beyond that because this question helps you see the layers of conditioning that you have accumulated and uncovers more of your authentic self. And ask yourself, what do I truly want? Separate the desires that come from the ego from a place of want, from a place of recognition or approval, to shifting that from like deeper longings that resonate with your soul, a deep desire. What is my purpose? Consider how, think about how you want to contribute and serve others from a place of authenticity. Ask yourself, what are my unique skills and talents? This is something that I've sat with for a long time. I've realized that actually we all have our own unique gifts. There's no comparison, there's only you. Step into those gifts, really step into it, own those gifts. For me, I realized it was that gift of my voice, which I've said on my earlier on episodes, how I found because it for a long time I had lost it. It's been a journey of remembering my voice and understanding that everyone has a voice to share. Or how my voice has that impact on everyone that I share my message with, whoever I connect with. We all have our own unique gifts. So and that in itself is what brings you that joy and fulfillment. And this will help you to distinguish between what the ego wants and what genuinely aligns with your true nature. This is a really good exercise. It's like without mentioning your name, your occupation, your achievement, your relationship, your gender, ethnicity, or any other external identities. Who are you? It will serve as a gentle prompt to start creating that space for you to move beyond the ego's limitations and step into self-awareness. The second practice is a really difficult one. It's to observe the I in everyday moments. And you see the ego, it's often strengthened by the I and the idea of a fixed sort of separated self. And so by observing how the I appears in everyday life, we can start to unravel its influence. So think about, just notice when you're using I in a conversation. I did this, I feel this, this. Are you asserting Or are you defending? Or are you seeking approval? And then ask, what would happen if I let go of my need to define myself in this way? And what this question does is to encourage this flexibility, inviting you to really see beyond that rigidness of all of these self concepts that we have been boxed in, caged in all of our lives. And so embrace that wisdom. And in Bruce Lee's words, be water, like water, flow without the need to be confined. Rather than defining yourself through fixed beliefs, allow yourself to adapt, change, and grow. And like water, we can be strong yet fluid, defined by its presence, but not its shape. Three, embrace the discomfort and the unknown. And this one was a big one for me because that comfort is often that product of the ego's need for security, while growth, it lies in embracing the unknown. So you can see there's a conflict, and I've realized throughout my life where there have been these areas of this comfort zone where I had all the signs, but I just kept saying, no, no, this is good, this is good. And it was literally the universe just pushing me out the door. Quite literally showed me those signs, but I wasn't taking it. So I was forced out of that comfort zone in a really hard way. But it was a good learning curve. And now I've become more accustomed to that discomfort. And because when you find yourself in discomfort, what happens is that you start to observe how that ego might resist or react. Yeah, because it starts clinging for that security, that area of what it knows. And so instead of fighting against it, try to see that discomfort as an invitation to grow, because your soul is here to grow and evolve. That's its purpose. And once you see that as an invitation, you start to flow with it. And so when discomfort comes around, ask yourself, what can I learn from this moment? So you're shifting from this blame mindset, thinking of why is this happening to me, to what is this teaching me? What can I learn from this moment? And allow yourself to be curious rather than reactive. Because remember that reactive behavior is rooted in ego, which is ego's desire for that instant gratification. So always take that pause and realize that each challenge or that discomfort, it holds a deep lesson about who you are beyond the familiar boundaries of the ego. And embrace discomfort as a cycle. Recognize that growth comes really from that courage to step beyond the known where the true self thrives. And four is a big one, which is cultivate mindfulness and presence. So that is that journey of making the unconscious conscious. And that comes from slowing down. Slow down and start to observe your thoughts, observe your feelings and your actions. And why is this so important? It's because the ego, it thrives on instant gratification. It thrives on past hurts, and it thrives on the future worries. But what I've come to realize is that your true self, it exists only in the present moment. And that is why through mindfulness, we can really learn to quiet that monkey mind and to become fully aware of this present moment. And it takes practice. So start by practicing observing your thoughts without any attachment. See how your mind's judgments and fears are literally like passing clouds rather than truths. Create those moments of silence to really connect with yourself. And what will happen is with time, you will begin to really distinguish between the quiet, the calm voice of your true self and the reactive voice of your ego. And so try this simple exercise when you find that your mind is busy with self-doubt and with judgment, just breathe deeply and say, in this moment, I am enough. In this moment, I am enough. This affirmation will remind you of your inherent worth, independent of the ego stories. And lastly, five, integrate the ego through compassion. This is to understand that the ego is a part of you. There is no way of getting rid of it, but it is not all of you. And so by integrating the ego with compassion, you accept it as a guide rather than a limitation. And so when the ego arises, observe it. I actually take quite a lot of joy now of just observing it. It becomes like a game, it's like voice again. What's it trying to do? Like bombarding me. And when every time it brings that self doubt, I can see it. So observe it without judgment and recognize it as that attempt to protect you, even if it's misguided, and see those moments of judgment or fear as signals and ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me about myself, rather than condemning the ego. See it as a tool for your awareness, because that's how your awareness will grow. And remind yourself that the ultimate goal is, as I said, it's not to eliminate the ego, but it's what I've come to realize is to parent it, to let your higher self lead with love. So when you feel triggered, ask, am I reacting from ego or responding from soul? And what this does is that this shift, it empowers you to choose awareness over reactivity. And so through this journey of self-inquiry, through observation and compassion, you can slowly start to integrate the ego as this helpful companion rather than a dominant force. So by choosing this self-awareness over fear, what happens is that you start to slowly uncover your boundless true self. And in moments of self-discovery, really remember, like water, you are both powerful and adaptable, capable of flowing through life with strength and grace. And that this journey of self inquiry, it isn't about achieving perfection, but about freeing yourself to be truly, truly present, to live fully as the highest expression of your being. So I want to close with saying that we are faced every day with a choice to repeat patterns or to evolve. And to evolve, we must go beyond the mind's endless narratives and become conscious witness of our experiences. And in each moment, we can choose to let go of all stories, to release that grip of fear, and to live in alignment with our highest truth. And by embracing our true self and seeing the ego as this guide rather than an enemy, we start to step into the expansive realm of our potential. And then life becomes less of a struggle and more of a flow. You start living in alignment, and it becomes an invitation to be present, to be free, and to be fully ourselves. Your time is valuable. It's the most precious commodity. So thank you for being here and sharing this space with me. As always, I use these episodes as reminders for myself, like mini guides that you can refer to whenever you need a check in with yourself for a moment of recalibration. So do feel free to save them and please do share them with someone who might need to hear them. And please do continue to share your comments and feedback too. It will help me to know what resonates for you and what you would like to hear more of. See you on the next episode.